At dawn, the sea itself seemed to move. That was how a German naval officer described the morning of June 6, 1944, watching through binoculars from the bluffs above Omaha Beach. It was not poetry, it was confusion. The English Channel, usually gray, empty, predictable, was suddenly alive with metal, smoke, and motion, arriving faster than any staff map had ever predicted. By 5:30 hours, before the sun had fully burned through the mist, the first American landing craft were already grinding their ramps into the shingle. Higgins boats, LCVPs, LCTs, hundreds of them, appeared almost at once. To German commanders trained on careful timetables and deliberate movement, it looked impossible. The sea was delivering an army at industrial speed. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had warned Berlin that if the Allies landed, speed would decide everything. He was not in Normandy that morning. He was in Germany, buying his wife a birthday gift, convinced poor weather had postponed the invasion. That single misjudgment would haunt German command reports for the rest of the war. Inside concrete bunkers overlooking Utah Beach, officers of the 709th Static Infantry Division struggled to make sense of what they were seeing. Their telephones rang endlessly. Reports contradicted one another. Paratroopers had landed inland during the night. American airborne troops from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, cutting wires, seizing crossroads, firing from the dark. Now the coast itself was under assault, and the assault was not slow. It was accelerating. German doctrine assumed amphibious landings would be fragile, chaotic, disorganized, vulnerable for hours. That belief came from Dieppe, 1942, where Allied forces bled badly. Normandy shattered that assumption in a single morning. On Omaha Beach, despite murderous fire from WN-62 and other fortified positions, U.S. engineers from the 299th and 146th Engineer Combat Battalions were already blowing gaps in obstacles under direct machine gun fire by 7:00. Their hands shook not from fear alone, but from cold seawater that numbed fingers until detonators felt like glass. Some men vomited from exhaustion. Others whispered prayers they had never learned properly. Still, the work continued. German observers noticed something deeply unsettling. When American units stalled, more units simply arrived. There was no pause to regroup offshore, no visible hesitation. The tide did not retreat, it reinforced. By mid-morning, General Major Dietrich Kreis, commander of the 352nd Infantry Division, reported that Allied landings were occurring with unprecedented tempo. His division had been reinforced precisely to crush a beachhead. Instead, his regiments were being stretched thin within hours, pulled inland to counter airborne threats while still under pressure at the coast. Further east, near Gold and Juno beaches, German officers watched the same phenomenon. Vehicles rolled off landing craft in steady streams, Sherman tanks, bulldozers, ambulances, each wave overlapping the last. It violated everything German planners believed about amphibious logistics. The psychological impact was immediate. German junior officers began to fear something worse than defeat. Loss of control. Orders issued at 08 were obsolete by 09. Roads that were supposed to funnel Allied movement were already blocked by airborne troops. Bridges marked as secure had vanished in smoke and splintered timber. By June 7, 1944, just 24 hours later, the Americans were landing supplies at a rate previously thought impossible without a captured port. Over 20,000 vehicles came ashore in the first days. Ammunition dumps appeared almost overnight. Field kitchens followed close behind. German intelligence officers, poring over aerial reconnaissance, struggled to reconcile what they saw with known Allied capabilities. One German staff officer wrote bitterly that the Americans fought like mechanics. It was meant as an insult. It was, in truth, an admission of awe. The speed was not just material, it was human. American infantry units rotated forward without ceremony. Men slept in foxholes dug into damp Norman soil, their uniforms stiff with salt and sweat. They woke to the sound of engines, hammers, and shouted commands in the dark. There was little romance in it, only motion. By July 18, 1944, during Operation Cobra, that same amphibious efficiency translated into a breakout from the Normandy hedgerows. German commanders, already exhausted, now faced divisions supplied faster than they could be tracked. Fuel, ammunition, replacements all arrived with brutal regularity. General Gunther Blumentritt, later reflecting on the campaign, admitted that German command had underestimated not American bravery, but American speed. The Allies did not wait for perfection. They moved while plans were still incomplete, trusting that momentum itself would solve problems. For German soldiers on the ground, this speed created a constant state of anxiety. There was no clear front, no time to entrench properly. One day a village seemed secure. The next morning, American armor appeared from a direction marked impassable on German maps. The realization settled slowly and painfully. The Atlantic Wall had not failed because it was weak. It failed because it was static. Against an enemy who landed, reinforced, and advanced with relentless tempo, concrete alone was meaningless. By late summer, as Allied forces pushed toward Paris, German commanders finally understood what they had faced on the beaches of Normandy. Not just an invasion, but a demonstration of modern warfare's future, where speed overwhelmed preparation and hesitation meant collapse. The sea had not merely delivered soldiers that morning, it delivered a new reality, one that Germany could no longer outrun.